Okay, we're going live. Thank you everyone for your patience. I'd like to call this meeting to order. We'll first start off with the roll call.
Good morning. Those of you in attendance, are you hitting your present button? Supervisor Winker. Here. Supervisor Haas. Here. Supervisor Jobs. Here. Supervisor Schlenbel.
Here.
Supervisor Clark. Here. Supervisor Nelson. Here. Present button. Supervisor Becker. Here. Supervisor Larson.
Here.
Did you hear me?
I did, thank you.
Yep.
Supervisor Grayball. Here. Supervisor Melitek.
Here.
Supervisor Richard.
Here.
Supervisor Wolf. Here. Sorry about that. Supervisor Cornick.
Here.
Supervisor Rischel. Here. Supervisor Joyce is excused. Supervisor Decker. Here. Supervisor Irish. Supervisor Worth. Here. Supervisor Ross. Supervisor Marchese.
Here.
I'm waiting.
Supervisor,
He's in attendance.
Supervisor Strom, you are here. Supervisor Holyoke. Supervisor Henricks. Supervisor Braverman. Supervisor Reed. Supervisor Minkle.
Good morning, all. Welcome to the county board. I think we'll start off, if we could stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, just a few things to talk about public comment. This morning. Our meetings are run respectfully. We'll respect each other. There'll be no personal attacks on anyone, singling anybody out. There'll be no signs. There'll be no applause. There'll be no cheering. I will call on you one by one. You can step up to the microphone, identify yourself, and speak. We have a 3-minute time limit for public comment per person. Our rules state that we have 12 minutes of public comment, but I think we will have a supervisor probably suspend the rules this morning to give more people a chance to talk and speak. So if any of those rules aren't followed, you can see our friends with badges on, fortunately or unfortunately, will remove that person if they cause any disturbance at our meeting. So that being said, we have a legislative update this morning. Welcome, Deb.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to be here. I'm State Representative Deb Andraka. Some of you I've had the opportunity to meet in person, but most of you I haven't. So it's nice to be able to put email addresses with faces. I know you have a really packed agenda today, so I won't take up too much of your time. I do have a legislative update, but I have summarized it for you in a memo that I will send to all of you after the meeting and it looks like today might be a kind of a long day. I'll just make a couple of points though. It's great to be here. My committees in the assembly are energy and utilities, forestry, parks and recreation, workforce development, and small business development. So I would love to speak with any of you about things that might be passing through that committee. There are a couple of budget hearings that are coming up that I just wanted to flag everyone's attention to. The Joint Finance Committee is having a couple of upcoming hearings, as well as the Badger Bounce Back program, and just wanted to make sure that you guys knew about it. My door is always open. I look forward to getting to know my constituents, and I want to work on behalf of the priorities and the people of the district. And there's a couple of programs I wanted to highlight that are in the budget that you might be interested in. There's a $5 million revolving loan fund. It's the Great Lakes Erosion Control Loan Program. It's a specific ask that I spoke to the governor about to help communities along the lakeshore and private property owners and municipalities that are having trouble with some of the erosion and the bluffs along the lakeshore. If there are any questions, I'm happy to take them. I am thrilled to be here, and I look forward to working with all of you. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Deb. Supervisor Irish?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do move to suspend the rules of public comment and propose 30 minutes to give more time for the public to speak on the matters before the board today.
Is there a second? Second by Supervisor Wolf. Is there any discussion? Actually, there's no discussion on it. I'm sorry. We'll do a simple voice vote. All in favor, say aye. All
Aye.
opposed? Seeing there's no opposition, the meeting. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I think by simple majority voice, we had,
It's a two-thirds vote.
well, run the roll. Run the roll call vote.
Supervisor Jobs, Supervisor Clark, Supervisor Nelson, Supervisor Becker, Supervisor Larson,
Yes.
Supervisor Grabo, Supervisor Melitik, Supervisor Wolf, Supervisor Richard,
Yes.
Supervisor Cornick,
Aye.
Supervisor Rischel, Supervisor Decker, Supervisor Irish, Supervisor Worth, Supervisor Ross, Supervisor Marchese,
Aye.
Supervisor Strom, Supervisor Holyoke, Supervisor Henricks, Supervisor Braverman, Supervisor Reed, Supervisor Minkle, Supervisor Schlenbold.
Yes. Motion carries on the vote of 24-1. Now we'll start off with the public comment. I will also, our rules also state that there is redundancy. I know we all like to have opportunity to speak, but if it's going to be the same thing over and over and over again and respect the time people like to get going, that we'll stop at the 30 minutes or prior to. So I have cards up here and I just randomly pick them off the pile as I got them. Our first speaker. Oh, I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Chairman, I have a question.
Supervisor
May I ask a
Braverman?
question? I just want to make sure, are we still limiting each public comment to 3 minutes?
Yes, 3
Okay.
minutes.
Okay, great.
Also, I was requested by some supervisors that I should clarify that this resolution that is before us is strictly for the Constitution. It has absolutely nothing to do with making Ozaukee County a sanctuary county for guns. This is strictly just a resolution protecting the constitutional rights of Ozaukee County citizens. So with that said, our first speaker is Jason, I believe it's Frank. You could state your name and address, please?
My name is Jason Frank. I reside at 1602 Valley Drive in Grafton. The only question that I had was for the board itself is that as a working citizen of the county, why are these board meetings held during normal working person's hours? A lot of people can't attend these meetings at 9 in the morning. That was my only question that I had.
Okay, unfortunately, it's just for public comment. We can have dialogue back and forth and answers, but your question is now into the record and we can look into it in the future. Thank you. Next up, we have the James Blank.
My name is James Blank. I live in Cedarburg. And my questions dealt with, does the county board have the legal authority to pass such a resolution? And if so, what is the effect? But you don't have any dialogue. So.
Okay, that can be brought up by a supervisor later in our debate. Next up, Shelley Skorick.
Hi, my name is Shelley Skorick. Live at 697 J Road, Cedar Grove, Wisconsin. Constitution is not debatable. This is a foundational issue. Several weeks ago, I went to the meeting where the proposal was introduced. There was banter back and forth. I heard words like repetitive, redundant. This isn't necessary. It was concerning to me, especially where our country is now. Our Constitution is being assaulted. Just last week, the President of the United States said, and I quote, "There is no amendment that is an absolute." That's appalling, and it should be to every American. United States Constitution gives us the liberties and the freedoms that we have. People come here for that reason. I took an oath as well as you did. I read your oath that you took to uphold the Constitution. I took an oath in the military. I served 22 years. If any soldier in my rank, in my platoon said to me, "Would you recommit your oath to the United States Constitution?" Absolutely, without hesitation, no question. I also took an oath as a registered nurse. I've been a nurse for 30 years, 22 years in an intercity ER. If at any time a patient said to me, "Would you recommit your oath to be an advocate for me and to do no harm?" Absolutely, without hesitation, I would stand and recommit my oath. When you vote yes today, what you are saying to me and to we the people who are the authority, I hear you, I see you. They're not just words on a piece of paper. They weren't just words that you spoke. They mean something. There are people that died, gave the ultimate sacrifice for this. You will not stand on the sidelines and watch while the Constitution is being assaulted. That right there instills trust between we the people and you who are our voices. It also shows integrity, that you're going to do what you said you were going to do in your oath. It's a promise. If you vote no or you abstain today, what that says to me and to we the people, you don't see us, you don't hear us, you are okay standing on the sidelines watching the assault on our beloved Constitution. That does not build trust with we the people and you. And it does not show integrity. This is a fundamental issue. I have to ask you then, if you choose to say no or abstain, why are you sitting there in those seats? Thank you.
Thank you. Well, please hold your applause. Deb Dasso?
Thank you, Chair Schlinvold, and thank you, supervisors. I'm Deb Dasso. I live at N73 West 5341 Georgetown Drive in Cedarburg. It's a hard address for my kids to remember when they were little. I'm speaking as a county resident for over 46 years, and I taught at the high school up the hill for over 36. But before that, I was born on Camp Pendleton in California. My father was a Marine. He was drafted into the Marine Corps during the Korean War. That same strong Marine, high school athlete, college athlete, teacher of children, youth sports, now sits in a nursing home in Brookfield, can't talk, doesn't recognize his family, needs to scream to go to the bathroom. And my family spends $12,000 a month to keep him there. What I'm asking this board to do is to look at the issues that really, really matter to people in this country and people in this state. And that's things like healthcare from birth to death. No family should be like mine, where every single hundreds of thousands of dollars that my father saved and earned is almost gone. We have a responsibility to people like my father, to everyone in this room, to make sure that we don't bankrupt people because of issues like healthcare from birth to death. My father was a Marine. I've taken conceal and carry classes. I've taken hunter safety classes. And to me, this is not what's the issue in this county. And this board has a proud history of supporting things like our Ozaki ride share that's helped a lot of people, our Lasada. You spent really good quality money on things like the fairgrounds. And those are the kinds of things that I want you to continue to do and focus on and not be distracted by issues that really aren't affecting us on a daily basis in this county. Thank you very much. God
Thank-
bless you all.
Thank you, Deb. Next up, we have Cheryl Rebels.
Good morning. I brought with me today our pocket U.S. Constitution. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union.
Could you introduce yourself?
Oh,
and name and
Cheryl
address,
Rebholz. I reside at 11715 North Bridgewater Drive in the great city of Mequon. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of the liberty to ourselves, our posterity, to ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. Just a reminder of your oath for the openers. Thank you for your public service, number one. Take your oath of office and remember to vote yes, to uphold our U.S. Constitution and also your Wisconsin oath of office that you took. Reaffirm your oath today. Amendment 1 of our U.S. Constitution, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, abridging the freedom of speech, thank you, or the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress or grievances. 2, amendment number 2, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of the free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The numerical order of this is profound, number 1 and 2. The oath that you have taken is not a feeling. It's been decided by our U.S. Constitution and by our branches of government. You're here, your public positions, because of our U.S. government. You wouldn't have this. I'm looking at the diversity of this board, and we are blessed that you can even serve here, because in other countries or continents, you couldn't do this. It's voluntary to run for office. For example, I respect the branches of government. Just got this in the mail today. This is from the NRA talking about the Second Amendment that's coming up in front of the U.S. Congress. Not, of course, here, because that is their role to uphold the U.S. Constitution or change any of our Constitution rules or regulations or amendments. So, for example, our Congressman, Glenn Grotham, is not here inserting his nose in your business, nor do we want you inserting your nose in the U.S. Constitution. So there is a separation of governance, which we need to respect. Also, we don't have our U.S. senators like Baldwin and Johnson here injecting themselves in your county business or how you regulate your rules and regulations in your business. The debate for that all comes out of Congress and the United States government. If we don't like our outcomes, we take it out civilly in our ballot box. That's how we hire and fire our representatives, and we should keep it that way because we're civilized. We, the people, need to stick together because if we are divided, we fall. United, we are strong. The Second Amendment also protects
Cheryl,
law and
your
order.
3 minutes are up.
I'm sorry, but I have to just finish. I can't come back and return, and I took off of work to be here.
Well, we'd have to get special permission from the board to suspend the rules. We have rules. I'm sorry. We'll do 30
I'll-
seconds,
okay.
30 seconds to clear up the clock.
I'm also here because I also own Bear Arms. I'm your only indoor shooting range in Ozaki County. And I thank God for the Second Amendment because the reason I opened my shooting range, I was a victim of a home invasion. And I hope that doesn't happen to any of you. So because I had a firearm in my home, I protected my children and myself because we were home alone without my husband. And I showed that and I told the people on the other side of that door that was trying to break in that if you came through this door and I had to show it in my window, I have a firearm and I'm going to protect myself. So thank God I had that Second Amendment to do that and protect myself. I'm asking you here today to reaffirm your oath, remember your roles, and respect why we are here.
Thank you,
If you vote
Cheryl.
no,
Your time is
we
up.
will fall and we will have chaos. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. Next up, we have Sarah Campisi.
My name's Sarah Campisi. I'm a resident of Saukville, 646 West Hillcrest Road, apartment 104. And I am here today in favor of the resolution, which is protecting our constitutional rights. There was another person who asked the question, why do we need this proposal if we already have the Constitution? And you would think that on the surface that we don't need it because we already have a Constitution, but I think we do actually need it because of all of the attacks that we have had on our liberties, especially in the past year. We have gone, even like I remember when I was in college back about 8 or 10 years ago, and the country is way different today than it used to be. So this down at the local level is actually protecting us from anything that might come down from higher up. Anything that might come down from higher up saying we want to take away your rights and your liberties, we want to protect ourselves as much as we possibly can. We can have liberty for the future generations. There's actually a doctrine called the doctrine of the lesser magistrate, which says that if so you have different levels of government. You have national government, state government, local government. The doctrine of the lesser magistrate states that if an unconstitutional or unlawful order comes down from higher up, it's the obligation of those on the bottom end, your local sheriff, town, it's their obligation to say, I'm not going to execute lawful order. And that's where we come in. We have to be there to say that if anything comes down from the top, that we want to take away your liberties or oppose the rule of law, we're not going to do that. We're going to uphold the rule of law. The Constitution is the rule of law. It wipes out anything that may want to come in its path and say, no more free speech, no due process. You can't do that. We already have the rule of law that supersedes everything. So if you do vote no to this, I want to say, why are you saying no to it? Is it because you don't agree with it? I think we all can all in this room say we do agree with it. We agree with the rights in the Constitution. If you say no to it, you're saying, I don't agree that I want to uphold the rights. That's what you're saying. And as far as another person who said that we need to have the meetings at different times, I do agree with that also, because I was fortunate enough to take off work today to have an understanding boss, but most people don't have that. And I dare say that most people in this room agree with the resolution because, look at them. They're all packed in this room together without masks. They love their freedom. They don't want anybody telling them what to do. And there are thousands of us. We're the majority in here. Not those people who are out there burning in the streets. We're the majority.
Time is up. Thank you. We're going to have, we have to remind you one more time, no more applause or we'll have to shut the public hearing down. So next up, we have Brittany Volich.
On July 10, 20, or sorry,
Brittany Volch, Mequon, Wisconsin. On July 10, 2020, in Veterans Park, right here in Port Washington, Break the Silence in the Burbs hosted a march in solidarity with Black Lives Matter. Guest speakers featured Black and brown local youth, a racial equity trainer, and a county board supervisor. Between 20 and 30 counter-protesters showed up at the staging location that day to deliberately disrupt and intimidate people of color from speaking their truth of experienced racism by shouting "All Lives Matter" at unarmed Black and brown keynote speakers, by drowning out a live performance of Lift Every Voice, by brandishing rifles, handguns, straps of ammo, and bulletproof vests. A mother had shown up with her 2 kids, eager to participate in the march that day, but left because she, quote, felt unsafe. We came ready to speak truth to power and peacefully advocate for racial justice and equity in Ozaukee County, an initiative which would substantively improve the lives of many Ozaukee County residents. The armed counter-protesters only came to disrupt, intimidate, and silence their fellow residents. Yet at no point were the First Amendment rights to free speech or assembly or Second Amendment rights to bear arms ever impeded, not by us, not by law enforcement. Even when they broke through a human wall that formed in front of the stage to protect the speakers, were they forced to leave or put down their firearms. Only one man, who after threatening to physically assault myself and another woman, was escorted out of the park and given a disorderly conduct citation. I do not have evidence that this faction, which weaponizes firearms to silence calls for unity and to intimidate the public to such a great extent that folks are fearful to assemble, that this group also comprises the bulk of the Patriots Ozaukee County membership. But I also have not found anything to suggest otherwise online or in print media. I understand and appreciate advocacy work, trust me. However, from what I have read, advocacy work with the Ozaukee County Patriots and by proxy, the grandsons of liberty, the drivers behind the conversations to make Ozaukee County a Second Amendment sanctuary, is not only outside the scope of the county board's work, but it would not substantively improve the quality of life for residents or address an unmet need in the community either. That is why I'm speaking here today, to speak to the fact the original draft of this resolution was intended and written with Second Amendment specific information. Today, the board will vote on the resolution protecting the constitutional rights of Ozaukee County citizens, a watered down version of the original language. This resolution is a smokescreen, a seemingly innocuous act for the board to have to reaffirm their oath to the Constitution, but the reality is it is an attempt for sponsoring supervisors and any others in cahoots with the Patriots to assert their influence over the board. When deciding to vote yea or nay, ask yourselves, does this resolution substantively improve the lives of Ozaukee County residents? Does it meet an unaddressed need in the community, or is it purely performative? I'm asking, instead of voting yes because it is the path of least resistance, to vote no and take a stance against political grandstanding in this room.
Thank you, Brittany. Next up, we have Ken Watry.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm Ken Watry, 4325 Blueberry Road, Fredonia, Wisconsin. My family's lived here since the 1840s in this Ozaukee County. I heard something this past Sunday, kind of while I was doing a little channel searching, seeing a couple of religious shows. It said, if you say that you will do something now, but later you do something different, is not your honesty in question? How about also your credibility? On April 8th at a Rose Garden news conference, the president of your and my United States said, no amendment in the Constitution is absolute. This past week, he is doing individual executive orders against the Constitution, Second Amendment. Let me repeat, on April 8th, 2021, just 12 days ago, since he took office to uphold the Constitution, he said no amendment in the Constitution is absolute. Does that scare you? Our local award-winning paper, the editor wrote just 3 weeks ago, a quote from James McKellen. U.S. Constitution is the nation's fundamental law. No person can be allowed to act as if he were superior to the law of the land. Now my point. Abstention of this declaration is putting your stance in other board members' hands. Every one of you should cast a definitive vote. I'm not telling you which way to go, but I'm just saying. If you abstain, you are hiding from a decision. Did your voters put you in office to hide? This vote is about either your support for the Constitution or you do not. Some may say this resolution is redundant. Redundancy is not the question here at this time. The vote here is to do what you promised your voters you will do. Abstaining from a vote is not a leadership position. We, the voting majority that put you, the elected officials here, in a position to represent us and uphold the Constitution and the amendments. I believe that if you said during your campaign you would sit on your hands and not uphold the Constitution and its amendments, you would have not been elected. So I ask, why is this hard for somebody to do? Again, you abstain, you are not willing to uphold the Constitution. Our forefathers were actually signing their death certificates against the British. For you, you're just agreeing to do what you said you would do. Our current individual occupying the White House says no amendment in the Constitution is for sure. Our 35th president, John Kennedy, said the worst place in hell are reserved for those that in a time of crisis maintain their neutrality.
And time is up, Ken.
Abstention is neutrality.
Thank you. Next up, we have Mark Giroux.
I am Mark Giroux. I live in Mequon, 14108 North Birchwood Lane. I am an alderman for the city of Mequon. And tonight, first thing we did was said the Pledge of Allegiance, where we're one nation under God. When you took office, you put your hand on the Bible and you pledged, you swore that you would uphold the Constitution and that you would be impartial. I've never had a vote in my 7.5 years as alderman, which was difficult because I've always done the right thing. And when you took that oath and when you pledged one nation under God, if you vote the other way, if you don't vote for this, your words mean nothing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Next up, we have Tabitha Sethi. Sorry if I didn't pronounce your name right.
It's Taiba Seti. I'm from Mequon, 3622 West Highland Road. And I'm just going to say that I participated in every single Black Lives Matter march this summer. Living in Mequon, watching my children and their children deal with the school systems and the racism that absolutely exists, and the fact that I and my children, who are brown by definition, are afraid to drive, have been pulled over for driving while brown, have been stopped on the side of the road to ask where they were going. Those are the minor things that have happened. This Constitution, you know, I'm a lawyer, okay? And this Constitution, it protects everyone. And when we talk about amendments, why is it? The freedom fighters out here only know the Second Amendment. They don't seem to know any other amendment to talk about. What about Fourth Amendment? What about Fifth Amendment? What about right to confrontation in a courtroom? What about fair and equal justice and protection under the law? That is not what happens to brown people and Black people in our county. I have represented too many Black people at the courthouse in this county, and it is an abomination. It is sickening. Vote no, for God's sake, vote no.
Thank you. Next up, we have Bruce Knapp.
First, I want to say thank you to the board, and I also want to thank all the members of the military for your service and who are in the room today. I'm here to ask you to vote yes on Resolution 21-1.
Oh, name and address, please.
Sorry. Bruce Knapp, 2514 Hillcrest Road, Fort Washington. I'm asking you to vote yes on Resolution 21-1, protecting the constitutional rights of Ozaukee County citizens. First 10 amendments to the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, were added as the Constitution's framers wanted to protect the people from government abuse. In the Declaration of Independence, they were referred to as unalienable rights. The purpose of the Bill of Rights is to establish personal liberties and put limits on government power to protect the rights the original citizens believed were naturally theirs, including the freedom of religion, freedom of speech, press, petition, assembly, and due process, among many others. Recent actions in Washington, D.C. and Madison, I believe, threaten these rights. Over the past year in particular, the freedom of speech has been threatened from multiple different sources, with big tech, big business, and big government seemingly walking hand in hand. On April 8th, has been mentioned several times before, and I apologize for the redundancy, our President and Commander-in-Chief stated that no amendment is absolute. On April 9th, an executive order was signed to create a Presidential Commission on Supreme Court of the United States, which will include consideration of the size of the court, which is also commonly referred to as court package. The list can go on and on. The bottom line is there appears to be a constitutional crisis brewing in our country. Resolution 21-1, the board has an opportunity to show the residents of Ozaukee County it values and will defend our constitutional rights.
Thank you. Next up, we have Doug Gall.
Hi, my name is Doug Gall. I reside in Cedarburg, Wisconsin. Wanted to talk on Resolution 21-1. The United States of America is and always has been a constitutional republic. Why did our founding fathers create this form of government? To make sure that God's rights, first and foremost, belong to the individual citizen, we the people. Then we, the people, delegate these rights to a constitutionally limited governing body in exchange for providing protection against foreign and domestic enemies. Why this resolution? Why are we all here today? Two county supervisors, Osh and Irish, heard from their constituents that the Constitution, the very fabric that holds us together as one nation under God, is and has been under attack, and that the citizens are concerned. This resolution that is in front of you today holds importance because it is a reassurance to your constituents that voted you into office, that the oath you took to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America and the state of Wisconsin are not just words repeated, but your foundation as to what guides you on your decisions made on this board on behalf of we the people. I will end this by paraphrasing something I heard from a supervisor from the April 5th, 2021 executive committee meeting that had brought this resolution forward. This resolution is asking us, the supervisors, to reaffirm our oath to the Constitution. I will do that and would not have a problem doing that each and every day if need be. 3 other supervisors on that committee also agreed. So I hope today that every county board member will feel the same way and vote yes for Resolution 21-1. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Our time is just about up, so I have 5 cards left here yet, so I'm going to just randomly draw 2 cards out for 2 more speakers because our time is up. So I drew out Andrea Sedlicek. Madison Avenue, Cedarburg. No? No? Oh, I'm sorry.
My name is Andrea Sedlacek. I live at W64 North 361 Madison Avenue in Cedarburg. Coming here today is a risky choice for me. I am pregnant, making me high risk for COVID, and I'm only partially vaccinated. So seeing people here indoors without masks makes me very nervous. But I felt strongly compelled to take time away from work to come here and speak if I were lucky enough to get the chance. So thank you. Also need a kiss. I grew up in Ozaukee County and moved back a few years ago to be closer to my family and to live in a quiet, safe community. And for me, and many other residents in Nozaki County, including my family and many of my friends, safety does not mean a more welcoming place for guns. Under our Constitution, the legislative branch passes laws and the executive branch upholds and enforces these laws unless and until the judicial branch declares such laws unconstitutional or they are repealed by the legislature. County supervisors are not entitled to pick and choose which state laws to enforce. It is up to the courts to decide whether or not laws infringe upon the Constitution. Ozaukee County supervisors, you have already sworn your oath to uphold the Constitution when you took office, so I'm not sure why you feel it necessary to do it again, especially in this situation. I urge you all to vote no on this resolution and instead work on legislation that helps our community.
Thank you, Andrea. Our last speaker today will be Tim Dake. I don't have an address or.
I'm Tim Dake, and I represent the Wisconsin Grandsons of Liberty, which is a statewide constitutionalist activist group that works to promote constitutional adherence. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Oh, name and address, sir, please.
I live in Franklin. I'm not a Ozaukee resident. I speak on behalf of the group. We have members all across the state.
That's fine. You're welcome to speak here. We just need your address. That's all.
Well, I thank you for the opportunity to speak in favor of protecting the constitutional rights resolution. Due to the time limit, I'm only going to address infringements on the First Amendment, although many of our constitutional rights are currently endangered. And I want to speak specifically to the need for this resolution. We're all conditioned to think that if tyranny were to come to this nation, it would probably be in the form of the federal government. And we would naturally look to our state government to protect our rights. But in this past year alone, in Wisconsin, government has punished people for attending church. That's our freedom of religion. It has punished people for gathering in groups. That's the right to peaceably assemble. And for speaking out in objection to lockdown. It's your freedom of speech. And for demanding that government listen to people and open the meetings again. That is our right to petition government for a redress of grievance. And has stated that the administration alone decides who is legitimate press and can report from the Capitol newsroom. That is our freedom of the press. Those examples are all 5 of the rights guaranteed by the First Amendment, all infringed in this past year in this state. If the state government will not protect our constitutional rights, then who will? What is the level of government to whom the citizens may turn to resolve our issues with government without conflict? The answer is the local governments, the counties, the towns, the municipalities. And that is why this resolution is in front of you. You've seen sheriffs and local officials all across this nation refusing to carry out some of the orders of their governors. Those officials are placing state and federal constitutions and the people's liberty first, and quite rightly so. The trend over all of our lifetimes has been toward more government and less liberty. And protecting and securing the blessings of liberty is the primary purpose and the foremost responsibility of all American government. It is our solemn duty to pass to our children a nation that is more free, not less free than the nation that our parents left to us. This resolution is a start. It's a line drawn in the sand. It marks the beginning of the return to constitutional governance, a resistance to a federal government that knows no constitutional bounds, and a state government that runs amok. And we, the people, are tired of it. We've had just about enough of their corruption, the payoffs to donors and special constituencies, their excessive spending and debt, their cronyism and corporate welfare, their political gamesmanship, and their ceaseless constitutional infringements. We are asking that this county board reject the politics and the abuses that have put us all in this mess. We're urging you to stand with the Constitution, with the Bill of Rights, with liberty, and with the people. And send a clear message to Washington and to Madison that you've had just about enough as well. The Constitution is not just for the good times. It's especially for guidance in the bad times. And you've all taken an oath to protect and uphold the state and federal constitutions. And we are imploring you to act on that oath with this resolution. Thank you again.
Thank you. At this time, we'll carry on with the rest of our meeting. Do we have any communications, Julie? Rhonda, do we have any claims?
Not today, thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Resolution 21-1, protecting the constitutional rights of Ozaukee County citizens. We have a motion made by Supervisor Irish, second by Supervisor Haas. I'll now open the floor for discussion. Is there any discussion? Supervisor Irish.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, can we have Julie read the resolution, please?
Protecting the constitutional rights of Ozaukee County citizens. Whereas the United States Constitution serves as the fundamental document that establishes the workings and role of the federal government and defines the limitations of said government with respect to its inability to infringe upon the rights and liberties of all people. And whereas the United States Constitution forms a more perfect union, establishes justice, ensures domestic tranquility, provides for the common defense, promotes the general welfare, and secures the blessings of liberty for United States citizens and their posterity. And whereas the Bill of Rights added the first 10 amendments to the United States Constitution in order to reaffirm specific guarantees of personal freedoms, clearly define limitations on the federal government's power, and make explicit declarations that all rights and powers not granted to the United States government are reserved to the states or to the people. And whereas the Constitution of the state of Wisconsin, which was ratified in 1848, contains a Declaration of Rights, which states in Article 1, all people are born equally, free and independent, and have certain inherent rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. To secure these rights, governments are instituted, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. And whereas throughout the history of and subsequent amendments to the United States Constitution and the Constitution of the state of Wisconsin, the foundation of liberties, freedoms, and inalienable rights has endured. And whereas each member of the Ozaukee County Board of Supervisors took an oath of office swearing to support the United States Constitution and the Constitution of the state of Wisconsin. Now therefore be it resolved by the Ozaukee County Board of Supervisors that no agent, employee, or official of Ozaukee County in his or her official capacity shall knowingly participate, whether by act or by omission, in conduct that infringes upon any individual's rights as expressed by the United States Constitution and the Constitution of the state of Wisconsin.
Thank you. So that's it. Non-controversial, non-political. Where this resolution as stated as a whereas clause that if passed, Ozaukee County would become a Second Amendment sanctuary county. It doesn't. Where in this resolution as stated as a whereas clause that if passed, the board is directing the county sheriff to ignore state and federal laws. It doesn't. There's been a lot of noise on what this resolution is and isn't. So let's focus on the resolution before us. This is a constitutional rights resolution, not a constitutional right resolution. This resolution does not make our county a sanctuary county or a Second Amendment sanctuary county. Rather, it reassures our constituents of our historical and continued compliance with our existing legal duty of supporting and upholding the U.S. Constitution and the Constitution of the state of Wisconsin per the oath that we each took. Some may wish it was more than that, but that's fantasy. That's not reality. The Bill of Rights added the first 10 amendments to the U.S. Constitution to reaffirm specific guarantees of personal freedom. Given what has transpired over the past year and restrictions to our constituents, some in the back of the room today, including not being allowed to assemble at places such as church, constituents in our county are concerned, and fairly so, and are asking for a reassurance of the oath that we took within the past year. I will vote yes, and I hope that my fellow supervisors vote yes. Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Irish. Is there any other comments from the floor? Next up, we have Supervisor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I would like to say thank you to all the people that showed up today. When we're talking about concerned citizens and we the people, I would like everyone to take a look at the back of the room to see how many people showed up to petition their government to exercise their First Amendment right to be here And I can't thank them enough for that, for showing up. This past year has been unprecedented. We went from 2 weeks of shutdown to now over a year of our freedoms being infringed upon by the First Amendment with freedom to assemble, freedom to petition your government. And what's even more scary to me is during an exchange earlier this week at the US House of Representatives between Jim Jordan and Dr. Fauci, he was specifically asked, Jim Jordan asked Dr. Fauci, what numbers do we have to hit before our people can get back to having their freedom? And he was unable to give a definite answer. There has been a lot of concern about this COVID, election integrity, and people have showed up here today to petition their government that we take an oath to uphold the Constitution. And I have no problem saying that every day that I have been elected. I was elected here to be a voice and to fight, and I will strongly vote yes on this resolution. And I want to thank everyone that's here, and thank you for all the men and women who have fought and died in the military, that we have this right to have a debate and that we can support this resolution and that we support the Constitution. And I will never waver from that. So thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Haas and Irish. Could you both please turn off your microphones? Next up, we have Supervisor Reed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I just briefly wanted to address why I voted no on suspending the rules. We recently put these rules into place, and at the time I voted against limiting public comment. But since we have those rules, I think they should be enforced. But since they were suspended in this case, I hope they're also suspended when we have Black Lives Matter protesters or supporters come and want to speak. Regarding Resolution 21-1, to interpret laws, ordinances, and resolutions, the courts have traditionally looked to legislative intent. They look at the notes of the legislative committee to try to determine what the lawmaker's intent was. In this case, I've looked twice at the YouTube video of the executive committee, and it's clear with the extent of the discussion about the Second Amendment and also a comment by our vice chair at 42 minutes in, he said that it doesn't say anything referring to the resolution about the Second Amendment, but we all know it's part of it. So clearly, this resolution today is not just a feel-good resolution about stating our support for the Constitution, but it's a Trojan horse for support for the group that is supporting the Second Amendment and the sanctuary movement. I believe that I am a constitutionalist. I support the Constitution, and supporting the Constitution means supporting the laws that were passed by the state and federal government as interpreted by the courts. Every right that we have is not absolute. The First Amendment, as we all know, you can't yell fire.
Got to keep it down in the gallery or I'll clear this room.
We know that you can't yell fire in a crowded movie theater. Regarding the Second Amendment in the Heller case in 2008, which declared that it was a right, also declared that it could be regulated, and our right to bear arms has been regulated by the federal government ever since that Supreme Court ruling. This applies to freedom of the press, freedom of religion. Every one of our amendments, every one of our rights has a right to be regulated and limited. I believe that the Constitution is under attack by people who believe that they have an individual decision about whether or not they support a law that was passed by our federal government and interpreted to be constitutional by the courts. So because of that, and because that really is what is behind this resolution, I will be voting no today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor Reed. Supervisor Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And like Supervisor Haas, I want to thank everybody who showed up today. I know for some of you, it was a great inconvenience to be here, but we always appreciate input from our constituents. I also want to thank the 57 people who emailed me and the 6 phone calls that I received on this subject. A little over a week ago, I had a phone call from Supervisor Dave Irish, who was one of the sponsors of this resolution. And he wanted me to advise him at that time that I would support this resolution. And I told him at that time I could not promise him that. I am one of the persons that voted to abstain in the executive committee. And I explained to him why I did that. To do Mr. Irish, I told him that it seemed to me that we were concerned about some problem that we had about the oaths that we all took. And I told him I didn't see that as a problem. I think everybody was abiding by the oath they took when they accepted this office. However, I did tell them that I would do some research, and I respected everybody's input. I also met with 4 individuals recently who I have a great respect for their opinions and insights, and talked through a lot of my concerns. I'm sure that at some point everybody will get an opportunity to voice either for or against any of these resolutions that come before us. But I told Supervisor Irish, one of my big concerns is that if this resolution passes, which I suspect that it will, what do we then do with it? And how many more times do we have a resolution like this, which has been taking up a tremendous amount of our employees' time? Our corp counsel wrote a 6-page legal opinion, which I respect, and I'm glad she did. Our county administrator has been inundated with phone calls and concerns. He has spent, and his staff spent a lot of time answering questions. However, after seeing that, I had 37 people that have asked me to vote yes and 20 that said no. I can tell you that I will support this resolution. However, I would also ask that we have more people involved like this in some of our other county business, such as what do we do with updating our senior home at Lasada, improving our infrastructure, bridges, county parks, roads, in an urban trail, providing vaccinations against COVID-19, providing health services to new mothers and their babies. I think your involvement is critical, and I ask and would respect your continued support or concerns about any other resolution that comes before this board. Again, I want to thank you for all that you do. I hope I adequately represent those that have elected me, and my phone is always open, and I'm not real good at reading emails, I must admit. I get behind, but a phone call or a text message is always appreciated. So again, thank you. God bless you all.
Thank you, Supervisor Nelson. Supervisor Braverman?
Good morning, everyone. First, I'd like to say thank you to
Now you're
all
gonna
of
get off Mineral Point Road, 254. So it's 1.8 miles.
Is that Patrick? Who's that?
Please continue, Supervisor
Okay.
Braverman.
So first, I'd like to thank all the constituents for being here today. I appreciated all the emails and calls that I've received as well, and actually posts on my Facebook page on social media. In talking to Supervisor Irish this past week, I want to share what I shared with him. Although the resolution has been revised, and it's being interpreted in such a way that we're reaffirming our oath to uphold the Constitution, the underlying history and context in which this resolution was brought to the table deeply concerns me. I watched the video of the executive committee meeting. And I felt like the views were all very much one-sided, as well as the speed at which the resolution was proposed and approved. It deeply concerned me. It was evident that this resolution is being pushed by those who mostly support the views of the Republican Party, which is well over 60% of the board. Everyone knows that. One question that has continued to concern me also is, what good will passing this resolution do? Yes, I've heard all of the statements and all of the comments from our constituents and others on the board. What is the effect? A gentleman asked in the back of the room. What is the impact? As a matter of fact, every time I review a resolution, I ask myself this question: who will it impact? What will be the impact? I just can't seem to come up with a good answer for this one. I'm still wondering why we're voting on this resolution today. More so than anything else, this resolution is about making a political statement against the actions of our Democratic leadership at the state and federal government levels, or rather those currently in authority over us. I really don't care which way we spin it. And since this county is an extended arm of the state, I have a problem with going against authority. If today we're saying that the county board, we're asking the county board to reaffirm our oath, well, I've already done that again and again. More importantly, what does this look like in the future? Are we going to stand in the room today and reaffirm our oath so that everyone everyone on Zoom and in this boardroom witnesses it? Is that what you guys want? You want us to stand and reaffirm our oath? I really didn't need an answer to that question, and you're really not supposed to answer. However, thank you. But what is the short and long-term plan for our board? This is my concern. If the goal is to pass this resolution to prove that Governor Evers was not in compliance, or that you disapprove of his behaviors, what good is that going to do? The Supreme Court already ruled against him. Our county sheriff is not enforcing a mask mandate. There's many of you in the room today not wearing masks. What good is this? Quite honestly, it feels like you're already getting what you want. I am the minority. You are the majority, as you've stated. And I'm here as a county supervisor representing all people of color, not only my constituents. So I do carry heavy weight on my shoulder. If this resolution passes, my fear is that the Republican Party will continue to drive the agenda of the county board, especially given how easy it was for this one to be brought to the table. We are supposed to be a nonpartisan board offering balanced views and making balanced decisions for all of our constituents. The boardroom is not balanced today. It is very one-sided all around me. We should not be supporting the views of one party over the other. And that's what this feels like. The leadership of the county board should not allow our agendas to be imposed upon by political groups or organizations. It scares me that we're allowing this to happen today. And we've done that in the past. And I am uncertain. I am truly uncertain of the future of the county board. Our agendas seem to be led more and more by personal and political agendas. This is not good for our county or our constituents. And as I said, only African-American woman on this board since 2016. Most people of color are afraid to join this board. Most people of color are afraid to live here.
Excuse me.
I've already sworn to
Must be
uphold.
silent.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you, Rhonda. As I said, I've already sworn to uphold the Constitution, and the weight on my shoulders is quite great. For this reason, and the continued gun violence against people of color, I vote no on this resolution.
Thank you, Supervisor Bailey. The last time I'm gonna allow this, I swear I will clear this room. There will be no more applause and yelling, and shouting, or commenting or whatever. Supervisor Malitek, thank you, Supervisor Braverman.
Thank you. Nice having a microphone that works now. I'd just like to say thank you again to everyone that came today. It's great having a lot of people here and that are at our meetings. It's good to have engaged citizens who wish to be heard. I just wanted to first say, kind of explain a little bit a quote I made. I was talking about at our exec meeting. I said something about the Second Amendment and being a part of this. I was trying to say basically the same thing that what Supervisor Irish said, that this is about all of our rights and not just one. That's all. Because there was a lot of discussion at that meeting about the Second Amendment. So just to be clear on that and why I brought that up at the meeting. It's great to have so many people here, and I took so many notes, and I was really, it was great to hear from all of you. A couple things though I wanted to say. I kind of wrote, as I was writing notes, I put down it's not a Second Amendment, a sanctuary county proposal. It's not a distraction for me. It's not a smokescreen as far as I'm concerned. It's not a situation where we can pick and choose what laws we look to enforce. That was said also. And I don't think I think it's not partisan. This is what people believe. And of course, there's people from all sides of all areas of political spectrum that believe in this one way or another, but it's not partisan to me. And it's not going against authority. Is another thing it's not. So, and then one last thing before I end here. Our corporate counsel gave us some guidance on this, and the conclusion, it reads, I just want to reiterate a couple of sentences here. This resolution falls within the powers delegated to and constitutionally imposed upon counties and their agents, employees, and officials. The resolution imposes no additional legal duties. It merely reiterates them. So for all of these reasons, I'm going to vote yes for this and proudly do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Malitek. Supervisor Minkle?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to everyone attending today. I have a little bit different take on this, and I appreciate Rhonda preparing the memo and particularly the analysis of Section 1983 claims. And I appreciate the citations to City of Canton, Manal. I'd note that just a few weeks ago, the U.S. Supreme Court decided a Section 1983 case on excessive force and Fourth Amendment search and seizure. So this is definitely something that's being litigated around the country. I'd like to ask if you could just give a brief summary of that analysis to make sure that everybody on the board understands what the implication of that is for the county. And if you, to the extent that you can discuss it, if you feel that the county could benefit from additional training to ensure protection of individual rights. I'm intrigued and open to what you proposed for including some sort of constitutional, statement in our code of ethics or the ordinance or whatnot. So I would like you to just speak on that for a minute, if you could.
As to your last point, including it in our ethics code, we often look at policies as something we need to gather in one place so we don't forget about them. It's one thing to pass a resolution on a given day, and 3 years from now, the board turns over, people forget about it, it's lost in history. So if we're going to propose a policy, it's best to place it somewhere where it's accessible in the future and we remember it. As to the civil rights issues, government is always vulnerable to being sued when there's a violation of somebody's constitutional rights. That violation could be committed by an individual employee or official, by a department, by an agency. There could be written policies and practices in place that violate the Constitution. Civil rights litigation is very complex. Ozaukee County has been subjected in the past to civil rights actions. We've had to respond to them. And we're always vulnerable to it. All employees, agents, and officials always have to be on guard not to violate somebody's constitutional rights. We know that as county government. With respect to training, the insurance company that insures us as a county at times reaches out and offers training to us for free to give to employees on various issues that maybe have become a problem throughout the state. Maybe a certain county was sued over an issue that arose related to either equal employment or harassment, discrimination, issues like that. And they'll offer training so that we can give that to our employees to make them aware of the issues and diligent about not engaging in such conduct. We as a county could always choose to go farther with, those offers and round up some kind of training that we think is suitable or appropriate or necessary for county employees. Ongoing training is important. One of the cases I cited there addressed that very issue where county failed to provide appropriate training, or rather a city failed to provide appropriate training. And because they didn't properly train, they were subjected to a lawsuit. So there are things that counties must do, that all government must do to keep their employees knowledgeable of things. And if they fall so far short of those duties, they could certainly be in a position of being liable for that. So that's kind of the gist of it. We're well aware of our constitutional responsibilities. The one thing that I see this resolution does is it sort of notifies employees that you too, must abide by the Constitution. I think the resolution is drafted to take the oath that the supervisors take and sort of remind everyone else in the county that we are all responsible to abide by the Constitution. And that's why I recommend if you're going to pass this resolution that we codify it somehow.
Thank you, Rhonda. Anything else, Supervisor Minkle? Thank you, Supervisor Minkle. Next up, we have Supervisor Ross.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thanks to everybody who came out today and all the emails. I had an opportunity to discuss via email with a number of you and on the phone with a number of you who are passionate supporters of this, my perspective on this. So I appreciate the opportunity to have that dialogue. And I'd like to speak to that a little bit today. So I'd like to first take us back maybe a year and a half ago when we were asked to, as a body, consider the Fair Maps resolution. Proponents asked the county board to consider a resolution that would allow our county constituents, our voters, to have some input to our state legislators about the idea of nonpartisan redistricting. I argued that it was a partisan issue, that it was being proposed by one side to paint another side into the corner. I remember Supervisor Melitek agreeing with me and saying, doesn't this feel partisan? Doesn't this feel like a political issue? The resolution was voted down as not being part of county business. Immediately afterwards, I went to our chairman and I said, we should undertake some policy revision that helps prevent such politicized, polarizing issues from coming in front of this board so that we can, in fact, focus on the functions of county government. And over the past year, we've deliberated, we've developed, we've debated, and finally last month we decided that we were going to pass such a resolution and change our county policies. I'm beyond disappointed that we're here today to debate something that strains the credibility of what is county business. From public comment today, and from my discussions with many of you, it's clear that the people who support this resolution are caring, thoughtful people who care and see that and believe that the fabric of this nation and this county is being torn apart when they consider the actions of governments above the county. And they're looking for some solace, some support at the county level to say, hey, we have your back. That was used in terms to me several times. And I think Supervisors Irish and Haas have heard those constituents and have brought this forward. And on the other side of the coin, we've heard from supervisors and I've heard from constituents who are equally committed countyans and are likewise concerned that the fabric of this nation is being torn asunder. And listening very intently to the speakers that we've had today, the emails that we've gotten, and the executive committee that discussed this a week and a half ago, that has led them to the very understandable conclusion that this resolution represents some political statement. And they understandably have a difficult time supporting that. Because as much as the supporters want to distance this current resolution from its origins, that's the ground from which this sprung. And that context is almost impossible to separate from today's resolution. I think we don't have to agree with each other's position to recognize and respect that each side of this comes to this issue with integrity and with a heartfelt concern about where this country is going and what the proper role of the county board is in that discussion. So let me talk a little bit about what this means, what the Constitution means to me, and I apologize for the segue here, but there have been a lot of discussions in this debate about what the Constitution does and doesn't do. I can't pretend, like some, to be a constitutional scholar, but I've lived the vast majority of my adult life under the moral obligation to support and defend the United States Constitution. I took my first oath when I was 17 years old as I joined the military. And for the next 28 years, as I advanced in rank in that military service, I took the oath 3 to 4 times, or every 3 to 4 years. I led people into harm's way. I deployed to the Persian Gulf. I arrested felons at gunpoint. And I made a commitment. I demonstrated my commitment to supporting and upholding the Constitution. So this oath is not something I've come to lately or lightly. It's a deeply held belief system that has shaped my adult life in its entirety. And what I've come to conclude is that I have to embrace the entire Constitution in its entirety. I can't select a particular amendment or a particular phrase that supports my issue du jour. Similarly, as county supervisors, and as an integral part of our oath, we are charged with executing the responsibilities and functions of the country within the full context of both of those constitutions. Why do I mention this? Every single one of the 10 people that I've had an in-depth dialogue with has expressed their belief to me, whether it's in the resolution or not, they've expressed their belief to me that somehow this resolution will allow or even require the county government to shield them from what they view as unconstitutional actions from the state or federal governments. At the state level, a recurring theme is Governor Evers and his mask mandate, or even worse, the non-elected Department of Health and Human Services secretary imposing some mask mandates. At the federal level, it now centers on the president's words about restricting gun ownership rights. And to be clear, I'm a card-carrying member of the Concealed Carry Club. My gun safe at home is full of guns. And in another job, I lead an organization that's charged with protecting and furthering our hunting heritage. But this desire to create some sort of protection from higher level of government authorities is frankly unconstitutional, right? It's contrary to our oath. And while that's not what's in the resolution, it's what people on that side of the wall are hearing, are expecting, are seeing within this resolution. And if we are trying with this resolution to communicate a message about supporting and defending the Constitution, we have to help them recognize that the Constitution does not endow the county with those responsibilities or authorities. So I understand that this resolution explicitly extends to the demands of the oath to county employees. But in discussion with county council and even listening to the executive board committee, makes no difference whether we pass this today or not on the legal requirement of this county and its employees to undertake constitutionally required mandates. It makes no difference. And yet here we are, talking politically charged issues, taking time away from the things that we are charged to do. I wonder if in another 5 years or 10 years, we're going to look back at this and see this as serious governing. I believe today we are faced with an opportunity, a positive opportunity, to protect the institution to which we were elected. That's the county board. We're county supervisors. We're charged with functions that fit within that division of responsibilities that the Constitution outlines. We have very limited legislative responsibilities. We have only delegated and circumscribed responsibilities to enforce, and we have no judicial responsibilities. That's the role of county government. You want to read, I think, the supporters, something more into this. And I know that my remarks and my ultimate vote no on this will be misconstrued, misrepresented, and used in a political way to say something that I do not believe I am saying, and I do not feel. But I think that's leadership, where you look into the issue and you understand what your role is in it and what we are being asked to do as a part of that oath. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor Ross. Supervisor Hendricks?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Glad to be back in person with my fellow supervisors 2 weeks after my second shot, so feeling good about being here. I had a lot of thoughts I was going to share. As usual, my counterpart, Supervisor Ross, said things very eloquently and had a lot of the same thoughts that I did. I was in favor of that redistricting proposal that we had last year, but Bruce, I really took to heart your thoughts of this is becoming a partisan issue and it shouldn't be in the board. And I've reflected on that. And to me, we have these little embers in this room of this partisanship. And this resolution, to Bruce's point, if it passes or fails, doesn't change anything, right? And it's just going to pour gasoline on this fire of partisanship. So for that reasons and a lot of things Supervisor Ross said, I will be voting no against this. It doesn't mean that I don't love the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. It's the greatest document in the history of the world. But we as a county government don't have an impact on that. If people in this room want to impact the state laws, we have a state representative here. Talk to your congressman. It determines how you vote for Senate and for president. And those are all important things. It's just not germane to us here in the county board. If we want to bring Judge Malloy up here, I will retake my oath right now with everybody else in this room. But I don't need to have this resolution that is just going to inflame the kind of north-south divide that's happening in this county, unfortunately. I just feel it's unnecessary, and I would prefer all the people that came to speak. I love it, love to see the passion, Come to our last meeting when we approved $7.8 million in bonds that impacts your taxes. Come when we're talking about LaSada and taking care of the elderly, our roads, our sheriffs and police department. That's what we as a county board need to be dealing with and not this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Hendricks. Is there any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, this is Supervisor Richard.
Yes, Supervisor Richard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry I couldn't be there today, but at least I got on the phone with you. I have various thoughts. We as a county board do very well in it acting as the administrative arm of the state. And has been mentioned, all the responsibilities that we have for this county. We don't do a good job when we address more political views. And again, it's been brought up a little over a year ago, we dealt with the fair maps, and I voted no on that. Years before that, there was something that we actually supported the state of Arizona on something they were doing. I'm not sure if it was border control or what. I voted no on that. To be brief, I will be voting no on this resolution also. When you look at the Bill of Rights, or the first 10 amendments, which were passed 4 years after the Constitutional Congress, Constitution was signed by everybody. Amendment 1 has freedom of speech. People can see my desk there, which I normally sit at with 3 flags. And when I see people burning the flag, I have a little heartburn about that. But you know, it's been determined that that's part of free speech. I know my fellow American Legion members don't agree with me at all about that, but that's the way it is. In civics, back when I was in 8th grade, we learned about freedoms versus responsibilities, rights versus duties. I know that isn't probably taught as much anymore, but there's a lot to be said there. I agree pretty much with what Supervisor Ross said. He was quite eloquent in what he said. When I look at the resolution, when you get down to it, the only thing that the resolution, you could eliminate everything above now, therefore, be it resolved. And some of the things new in there is that no agent, employee, or official of the county. And so we're putting employees into this now. It doesn't in any way say that we will reaffirm our pledge. So if we do this, I think we've got to think about what are we going to do with it if it is passed. And I know our Corporation Council has said, well, we could maybe look further into our code of ethics. Maybe we need an ordinance. And at that point in time, I think we need a whole lot of training for all of our employees. I'm not sure if we want to go there. In fact, you could start with 8 hours, maybe it's 40 hours. We have attorneys sitting in the room there who have had a lot more than that. And you'll find attorneys with 2 different opinions. So this can get quite complicated, I think. I'll just leave it at that. And I guess all I can say is I've made the oath of office quite a few times at the county board. I know I've made it joining the Army, and I know I've made it various times, I'm sure, in my federal employment that I had. So with that, thank you for your time, and I'll be voting no on this resolution. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor Richard. Supervisor Minkle, second time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I think everybody is in agreement today that we stand by our oath of office. We recognize that we have already taken our oath of office, and And we stand by that. I personally have taken the oath to uphold the Constitution 3 times. Like other supervisors, I come from a military family. My father is a U.S. Army combat veteran from Vietnam. My mom worked for the VA Medical Center for 25 years. I understand something about the Constitution. I understand something about sacrificing for your country. And I'm very concerned, based on public comment and some discussions I've had with fellow supervisors, that if we approve this today, that there will be some misunderstanding and an inaccurate understanding of our role and what we are doing to uphold the Constitution. I don't think that corporate counsel would advise us that all constitutional amendments are absolute amendments. She knows that that's not true. And I don't want to give the impression that as county board, we are upholding that. So I would make a motion to send this back to the executive committee for further discussion and for consideration of Rhonda's suggestions.
Is there a second? Second made by Supervisor Reed. Is that allowed discussion? There's no debate. Yeah. Any discussion on sending this back to committee? That is the motion in front of us right now. If you have a comment on this, you need to raise your hand because you're in queue from the last. So does anybody have a comment on this about sending it back to committee? If not, I'll clear the board for the vote.
I'll make a quick comment.
Oh, Supervisor Larson.
Thank you. I think it's a great idea and we should send this back to committee. Thank you.
I'll say something.
Supervisor Melitek.
I don't think we should send it back to executive committee. I'm on the executive committee, and I'm not sure what would change or what could be really, what really would be changed. We'd be here again in a month with the same resolution, is what I believe. So I don't think it should go back.
Supervisor Wolf.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Like Supervisor Melitek, I'm on executive committee. I don't see what would change either. And then we potentially would be asking some of our constituents to miss work again to come to a meeting, and I don't think we should do that. So I think we should deal with this here and now. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Wolf. Is there any other comments? Otherwise, I will explain the vote. If you vote yes, it will leave this body today and go back to committee. If you vote no, we will continue on with the motion on the floor. So I now will clear the board for the vote. No means it does not go back to committee.
Supervisor Larson?
Aye.
Supervisor Richard?
Supervisor Richard?
No.
Supervisor Cornick?
No.
Supervisor Marchese?
No.
Motion fails on a vote of 5 yeses and 20 noes. So we'll go back to the discussion on the original motion. Supervisor Melitek. Second time.
Second time. I just like to respond to, first of all, let me just say, I'm not a gun owner and never have been a gun owner. And so just wanted to let you know that, Supervisor Ross. And to kind of clarify, I want to make sure it's understood. I feel like that I'm being consistent when we talk about partisan thing. And to me, the difference here is that we're, this is more of a, well, we're reinforcing our oath of office. And we're not directing or trying to sway or push for any law or anything to be changed at a state level from our state or state representatives or federal. So that's how I feel I'm being consistent in saying I don't believe this is partisan. And, I guess this situation kind of goes back before there were even Republicans and Democrats, right? So, and thank you again, though, for your thoughtful response and eloquent. I'll say it again. You get a few people who said that. I do agree with much of what you said, and I do agree with Supervisor Hendricks would just said it earlier. So I think, to me, it's good to reinforce our oath of office for many reasons. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Melitek. Supervisor Ross, second time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This has already been mentioned today, but I listened to the executive committee discussion, and a supervisor said something in that meeting, and that supervisor was Supervisor Cornick. And it's already been spoken to here that he'd be glad to stand up every day and repeat the oath. If that would make people comfortable that we are supporting and defending the Constitution of the United States and of the state. Don doesn't say a lot. So when he does speak, I tend to listen. I may not always agree, but I listen, and that resonated with me. So maybe there's a way through this that we can take this opportunity. I don't know, but we can take this opportunity to bring us together as a county board, to push partisanship aside. And since it makes no real legal difference whether we pass this resolution or not in terms of how it affects our employees, I would move to postpone this resolution indefinitely and then rise to state our oath of office again, which seems to be what this group wants. That seems to be something that's consistent with our expectations of being a member of this county, and eliminates the baggage that came along with the resolution. So that's my motion.
Was there a second, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, we have a second by Supervisor Hendricks. And it is debatable. Is there any discussion on the motion to postpone indefinitely? Any discussion? If there is no further discussion, I will clear the board for the vote. Obviously, you know, a yes means it's postponed indefinitely, a no, we go back to deliberation on the original motion.
Supervisor Larson,
Aye.
Supervisor Richard,
Yes.
Supervisor Cornick,
No.
Supervisor Marchese.
Aye.
Supervisor Marchese,
Aye.
how do you vote on the motion to postpone indefinitely?
I vote aye.
Thank you.
Is it 21 to 2? Motion fails on a vote of 9 yes, 16 no. We're back to discussion on the original motion. On the original resolution, I'm sorry, resolution 21-1. Is there any other discussion? If there is no other discussion, I will now clear the vote on resolution 21-1, protect the constitutional rights of Ozaukee County citizens.
Supervisor Larson,
Aye.
Supervisor Richard,
No.
Supervisor Cornick,
Aye.
Supervisor Marchese.
No.
Passes. Motion passes and a vote of 16-9. Next up, we'll take up resolution 21-2, application of Wisconsin Department of Revenue for a Class B intoxicating liquor permit renewal and designation consigneurs to utilize the county facilities at Hawthorne Hills Golf Course. Motion made by Supervisor Nelson, second by Supervisor Clark. Any discussion? Supervisor Winker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a question for Jason. Jason, I was out there on Good Friday and did some golfing, and it would have been nice if the concession stand would have been open. I think it would improve my game, but all kidding aside, it would have been nice if the concession stand would have been open.
I did not golf on Good Friday. But I actually did play on Sunday and it was open. They staff it lightly when play is light. That's.
Thank you, Supervisor Winker. Is there any other discussion on resolution 21-2 on the application for Hawthorne Hills? If not, I'll clear the board for the vote.
Supervisor Larson,
Aye. Yes.
Supervisor Richard,
Yes.
Supervisor Cornick,
Aye.
Supervisor Marchese,
Aye.
Supervisor Marchese.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carries on a vote of 25-0. Do we have any committee reappointments? We have a committee appointment of Kathleen Obernader to replace Patricia Treffert. We have a motion. Motion made by Supervisor Clark, second by Supervisor Irish. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? If there is no further discussion, I will clear the board for the vote.
Supervisor Larson,
Aye.
Supervisor Richard,
Yes.
Supervisor Cornick,
Aye.
Supervisor Marchese,
Aye.
Yes. Motion carries on a vote of 25-0. Okay. Yeah, Tyler Weber is going to be our next speaker on the update on COVID. And he has a important message he wants to deliver. So if he could just stay just a little bit longer. He's on his way here. He's probably running through the hallway if I know him. He does have a busy job.
Point of order.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, Don Cornick.
Yes.
I'll be leaving the meeting now.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for attending, Supervisor Cornick.
this one here. Yeah.
Check.
Welcome, Tyler.
Okay. Hi, everyone. You ready to get started? Yep. Okay. My name is Tyler Weber, Interim Health Officer, and I'll be giving our COVID update. And then I'll take some questions afterwards. So Ozaukee County burden over the last 2 weeks has had a slight trend upwards. No great spike or anything, but still caution as we look ahead, especially as we look at what's happening with Michigan as their November cases and hospitalizations are the same as November, which was around a large spike for our entire country. We do have the Brazilian and UK variants in our counties that may or may not be contributing to any increase in cases, but just again, words for caution. We're also seeing a slight increase amongst those of the younger population, a few increases in a few new outbreaks in our schools, but overall those have been largely contained. So, so again, slight increase overall, but slight caution, but no large concern at this time. The good news is that Ozaukee County is doing very well with vaccine uptake. So we have 48.3% of the population has their first dose, and 85.3% of 65 plus have their first dose. And so the vaccine distribution has been working really well, especially statewide. Wisconsin's often been #1 in the country for the rate of vaccines. And we've seen a 97% decrease statewide in COVID cases amongst long-term care facilities and care for elders. So this is really good news, and we're just encouraging more than anything vaccine uptake across our county for those who are 16 and older. Other challenges in the news recently, Johnson & Johnson vaccine that is on hold. We do have some of those doses, but we're not using them. We're waiting to hear from the federal government on how to proceed with those vaccines. We are working with partners on handling homebound. The vaccines that we have, the Pfizer vaccine and Moderna that are currently in use, they're just a new vaccine and they have very strict storage requirements, so it's make the homebound vaccine programs a lot harder, but we are pushing ahead with those. And most recently, a success story is partnering with Midland Clinic to supply them with vaccine for the Mequon Town Hall clinic that they have. So vaccine distribution, again, is increasing, and we're doing our best to get as much out there and work with our partners. And then there's a slight uptake in COVID cases in our county. So we continue with the health department guidance recommendations of just social distancing and mask wearing, but those are recommendations and guidance. So at this time, I'll leave it open for questions.
Do we have any questions for Tyler? Queue in, please. Supervisor Melitek?
Yes, thank you. So the county rates, do you have any percentage numbers or what are I mean, I'm first off, let me just say I'm very pleased the rates of vaccination are so high here in the county. You said 48% first dose, or and then
yes,
people over 65. What was that number again?
85.3% of those over the age of 65 have their first dose.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
And like I say, I got the J&J one. I feel fine.
Good.
2 days before they canceled it, but
paused it. They paused the vaccine.
Paused. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I misspoke.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it's okay.
I'm trying to say it was good for me, but
yeah.
And hopefully, well, on that note, hopefully we'll be able to get news out when it is.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we find out as early as Friday.
Okay.
Continue using it. They're just taking extreme precaution right now.
Right. And then, so it's the county rates, do you have any rates of what we're at now? We used to get some numbers early on. I don't know if with the, as far as percentages of people that are hospitalized or have COVID.
Yeah, so hospitalizations are very low. Deaths, we haven't had any new deaths recently. But I don't have the exact hospitalization rate, but it is close to where we were very early in the pandemic. So we're not seeing any increase. It's staying down, and that's very good news.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you for all your work.
Thank you, Supervisor Militek. Supervisor Grabow?
Yeah, I was asked to ask this question. It seems like nobody is ever talking about we had a flu epidemic this year. So were the people with flu counted in with the COVID-19?
No.
So how come there's no flu then?
Social distancing and mask wearing. So the flu spread's very different than COVID-19. It's 1-to-1. So one person who has flu is often going to infect another person that has flu, and it's respiratory, so it spreads via air. And so when you're wearing a mask and you're social distancing, that's going to cut down the flu dramatically. So those cases, flu is down nationwide because of the COVID-19 mitigation measures.
Good answer.
Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Grabow. Supervisor Nelson?
Thank you, Tyler. I just wanted actually to congratulate you and your department on the great job you're doing at the fairgrounds for the vaccination. I had both my shots out there. My wife brought an elderly person from town out to get her vaccination. They just completed their second shots. Again, it just was flawless out there. So congratulations on such a great job and keep up the good work. So.
And it's a very good team, so.
Yeah, they did a great job.
Thank you, Supervisor Nelson. Supervisor Reed?
Oops. Thank you, Travis, for all your work or Tyler, for all your work with those vaccines. That's just great news. A question about the Brazilian variant. Is it more contagious and do people get more sick with it or haven't you found that?
So both the UK and the Brazilian variant are more contagious. They do find they spread easier amongst younger populations as well, but so far there's no data that's shown that it's necessarily increased. You have a higher increase risk of hospitalization or death.
Okay.
So they're spreading easier, so that's not good news, but it's not necessarily increasing the burden on our hospitals at this time.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Supervisor Reed. Is there any other?
Some level, exactly what we don't know. It's still early.
Thank you, Supervisor Reed and Supervisor Nelson. Is there any other discussion? Any other questions for Tyler? Thank you, Tyler, for all the work.
I have a question.
Oh, just hit your call button. Didn't light up here. Supervisor Minkle.
Thank you, Tyler. I was wondering if you could speak a little bit on long COVID and if the public health department is collecting any data on long COVID or tracking that in any way. If you're seeing any trends in that regard. I'm aware of people who are still struggling with long COVID and they did not previously have any, comorbidities or anything like that. It seems to be predominantly impacting women. If there's any additional resources that you're aware of in the county, that'd be helpful.
So for long COVID, we continue to do what they're called follow-up calls for those who have had COVID-19. So even if it's a month or two later, we try and call every person that was positive for COVID and ask if they still have symptoms or not. And if they do, what are those symptoms? And if not, when did those symptoms resolve? And we put that into the Wisconsin electronic disease surveillance system. And so then DHS then is going through that data to look at what is happening with long COVID, and then funneling that to also the CDC. So we have a good database locally and nationwide of what's going on. So we're not necessarily diving into that ourselves, but that's for the state to look into and then share with us of what they're finding. In terms of that treatment and groups, I know some of the hospital systems are working on it, but it's still very early, and I don't know what initiatives are in place directly to support those, but it's needed. And right now it's hard to fully find out, who those are. And so those support networks, we need to coordinate with the hospital system to be able to do that. So that's something we can push forward. And if there's those that, if anyone knows people that are struggling with that, we can try and gather resources with our team to help provide that support.
Okay, can you explain from your understanding what are the symptoms and sort of health conditions that people in our county with long COVID are experiencing?
I don't know specifically in our county, but nationwide, it's sometimes brain fog on and off. It is fatigue, chronic fatigue, lung challenges. There's a disturbing number of mental health challenges, depression, anxiety coming out of those that have been hospitalized for COVID. So even after they leave the hospital, it's like at least 1 in 10 or more, maybe even as high as 1 in 3 people that have some type of mental health challenge coming out of hospitalization. And so there's still, and it takes more time to detect that. So what's happening specifically in our county with that, I'm not entirely sure, but I know nationwide there's that trend, and we have citizens with those challenges in our counties, and so we need to keep looking at that. But it's certainly a concern.
Thank you, Supervisor Minkle. Is there anyone else that has any questions for our health department today? If not, Mr. Worth? No?
One last update is I will be stepping down from my role as interim and taking another position. I can't announce details on that yet, but I've been working since last week with both counties to ensure a smooth transition. We're coordinating with Kim here, who's been with the health department for 4 years as a business manager, to potentially step in as interim, but I will be stepping out of my role.
Well, you just got here. Well, we appreciate all you've done, and anytime anybody can move forward in their career, I definitely support that. So thank you for all you've done.
And we'll be working with both Josh and Jason and coordinating with the teams and on a daily basis and our partners to ensure a smooth transition and making sure everything's all good to go, and just making sure everything's in good hands.
Well, on behalf of the county board, we wish you your best. So thank you for your service, what you've done so far. So
Thank you.
thank you. Supervisor Worth, do you have anything you wanted to add today? Do we have a second? Second by Supervisor Ross. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Meeting adjourned.